Good day and welcome to another episode of The League of Biblical Enthusiasts. So, we've been talking about the history of the Bible, particularly at this point, the Hebrew Bible. And we would like to introduce a new series called the Three Books series. For example, 3 books to help you understand the New Testament, 3 books to help you understand how the Gospels came together as a single unit. This episode today, we'll talk about 3 books to help you understand the Dead Sea Scrolls. Basically, I've got about 15 or so books in my own personal library on the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, over the last 70 or so years, there have been thousands upon thousands of books, dissertations, theses, monographs, periodicals, newspaper articles, podcasts, and on we can go about the Dead Sea Scrolls. They have a long history now and have been studied in every different way. So, where do you start? Well, I've put together a small collection of 3 books to help you understand the Dead Sea Scrolls. The first of which is a popular level introduction to The Mystery and Meaning of the Dead Sea Scrolls by Herschel Shanks. Herschel Shanks founded the Biblical Archaeology Review and was its editor for decades. He passed away just a few years ago. He was by profession an attorney, but became enamored with biblical archaeology and actually befriended many of the famous archaeologists of our day. It was his passion to understand biblical archaeology. He devoted his life to it and left his profession as an attorney to do so. He spent a lot of time on understanding the Dead Sea Scrolls and covering the various issues that have been raised throughout the decades. So this book is a good popular level overview of the whole series of the Dead Sea Scrolls, where they were found, who found them, under what conditions. Just a quick look at the contents, exploring the legend of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the team at work as they understood the scrolls. Were the scrolls produced by the Essenes? What was Qumran like? And Qumran, of course, was the area where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. What kind of people were the Essenes, if that is in fact who produced the scrolls? Do the scrolls undermine or somehow, what's their relationship to the early Jesus movement and Christianity? How do they illuminate early Judaism, Second Temple Judaism? And what about that famous copper scroll? And then looking toward the future in scroll research. So this is a good general overview. It is some 200 pages. Well worth getting a read just to kind of get a high level overview of the scrolls. Secondly, a little more in depth, James Van de Kam and Peter Flint. The meaning of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now this book is some 400 or so pages, and it goes into a lot more detail about the scrolls themselves. Again, where were they found? Under what conditions? How are they dated? What are the different scrolls? Are there Christian texts found there? In addition to biblical scrolls, what other kinds of scrolls were found? What was the archaeology of the Qumran community? The Qumran community and the area where the scrolls were found have been identified by many scholars as being the work of the Essenes, a religious sect that even Josephus spoke about. How are the Essenes similar to Second Temple Judaism? How are the Essenes different? What would their community look like? It was a French archaeologist, Roland Deveau, from the École Biblique in Jerusalem, who, along with the team in the 50s, did much of the work on the early archaeology of Qumran. Later work has been done as well, but it was Dr. Deveau who pioneered the work on Qumran. This also goes into detail about the text of the Dead Sea Scrolls. What were the various books? What was their subject? What did they talk about? What did they emphasize? What is the relationship to the Hebrew Bible? And among the Bibles, the texts that we have in the Hebrew Bible were all represented. As a matter of fact, no. The Psalms were the most represented text in the Qumran Scrolls, the Dead Sea Scrolls. Deuteronomy was secondly most represented. Genesis third, and so the list goes down to where Nehemiah and Esther have no representation in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Why is that? Do we know? Well, no, we don't know. It could be that those texts have yet to be found, that they are still somewhere in another cave. Or it could be that we just simply don't know why those two books, Nehemiah and Esther, have not been represented in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So this book, a little more advanced, but fascinating, with charts, highly represented with textual notes, bibliography, helpful references after each chapter. Just can't say enough about it. Amazing. Now, thirdly, of course, the best way to understand the Dead Sea Scrolls is to simply read them. And so that's where this book comes in, The Complete Dead Sea Scrolls in English by Geza Vermesh. There is another translation of the Dead Sea Scrolls out there, but this one seems to hold its own as a standard for understanding them. So, every scroll that has been found, even some of the smaller fragments, have been translated into English in this book, and you just simply read it for yourself. Now, I do think, as I've gone through this, that the Great Isaiah Scroll is not translated because simply it's essentially the same as we have in our own Bibles today. But the other scrolls are broken down in categories: the rules, hymns and poems, calendars, liturgies and prayers, apocalyptic works, wisdom literature, Bible interpretation and certain commentaries on different books of the Bible, biblically based apocryphal works, and then miscellaneous works such as the Copper Scrolls and others. So 600 pages of an English translation of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Can't go wrong. Again, several appendices, bibliography, and an index of authors. Geza Vermesh, an authority on the Dead Sea Scrolls. These three books: Mystery and Meaning of the Dead Sea Scrolls, Herschel Shanks; Meaning of the Scrolls, James Vanderkam and Peter Flint; and then thirdly, The Complete Dead Sea Scrolls in English, Geza Vermesh. There you have it. We'll see you in another episode. Have a good one.